What if saving someone meant losing yourself? Clara Reynolds often pondered this question as she navigated the bustling streets of New York City, the sound of sirens echoing in the distance. At 32, she had dedicated her life to nursing, a profession that was both rewarding and draining. The hospital where she worked was a microcosm of life and death, hope and despair. Each day, she donned her scrubs, ready to face a relentless tide of patients. But inside, she felt an emptiness that no amount of medical training could fill. The fluorescent lights of the hospital flickered as Clara pushed through the double doors into the emergency room where chaos reigned. The air was thick with the scent of antiseptic and the low hum of machines monitoring vital signs. It was a familiar environment, yet Clara felt like an outsider, watching life unfold through a glass wall. She moved swiftly from one patient to another, her heart heavy with the weight of their stories, each one a reminder of her own unfulfilled desires. That evening, as the clock struck 8, Clara's routine shifted dramatically when she encountered Ethan Hayes. He was a new patient brought in after a severe car accident. His dark hair was tousled and his face was marred with bruises and bandages. But it was his piercing green eyes that drew Clara in. They held a storm of emotions, anger, pain, and something else she couldn't quite place. She approached him cautiously, her heart racing as she introduced herself. "Hi, I'm Clara, your nurse for the evening," she said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of feelings swirling inside her. Ethan merely nodded, his gaze fixed on a point beyond her, as if he were somewhere else entirely. The tension in the room was palpable, and Clara felt an inexplicable pull towards him, a connection that defied logic. As she began her assessment, Clara noticed the way Ethan clenched his jaw, his body tense. There was a brooding quality about him, a wall he had built around himself. She tried to engage him, asking about his pain level and if he needed anything, but he responded with curt remarks. "Just fix me up and let me go," he snapped, his voice laced with irritation. Clara's heart sank. She understood the anger that simmered beneath his surface. It was a reflection of her own struggles. Yet she could not help but feel drawn to him. There was something about his vulnerability that resonated with her, a shared understanding of the darkness that life often brought. But as she continued her work, she realized that getting through to him would not be easy. He was a man on the edge, grappling with demons that she could only guess at. The days turned into nights, and Clara found herself increasingly invested in Ethan's care. She learned bits and pieces about his life. He was a former musician whose dreams had been shattered by addiction and loss. His failed relationship lingered in the air like a ghost, and Clara could see the shadows it cast over him. Every interaction between them was charged with a tension that was hard to ignore. She longed to reach out, to help him, but he consistently pushed her away. Ethan's anger was a fortress, and Clara felt the weight of his resentment each time she approached him. He would often lash out, blaming the world for his pain, and Clara found herself on the receiving end of his frustration. It was disheartening, yet she refused to give up. She saw glimpses of the man he could be beneath the layers of hurt, and she was determined to break through. During one of their conversations, Clara noticed Ethan staring blankly at the wall, his expression distant. "You really think you can help me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. There was a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes, but it was quickly replaced by doubt. "You don't know what I've been through." "I may not know everything," Clara replied, her voice soft yet firm, "but I do know that you're worth saving, Ethan. You still have a heart." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. For a moment, she thought she had touched something deep within him. But then he withdrew, the wall coming back up as he turned away from her. As the days passed, Clara's colleagues began to notice her fixation on Ethan. They exchanged knowing glances, their whispers echoing through the nurses' station. "You can't get too involved, Clara," one of her friends cautioned. "It's against hospital policy. You have to maintain boundaries." But Clara could hardly hear them. Her heart was already entangled in Ethan's world, and she felt a stirring of emotions that she hadn't experienced in years. The ethical dilemmas loomed over her, yet Clara was torn. She saw potential in Ethan, a spark that could ignite if only he would allow it. But as she tried to connect with him, the obstacles mounted. Ethan's past haunted him, and he was determined to keep Clara at arm's length. Each time she reached out, he recoiled, and it became a painful dance of push and pull. One night, after a particularly intense interaction, Clara found herself alone in the break room, her heart heavy. She replayed their conversations in her mind, searching for clues in Ethan's behavior. It was as if he were a puzzle, and she was desperate to piece together the fragments of his life. But with every attempt, she only felt the sharp sting of rejection. "Why do you care so much?" he had asked her once, his voice laced with skepticism. "You're just doing your job." The words cut deep, and Clara was left grappling with the reality of her own feelings. Was she crossing a line? Was she simply a nurse trying to do her job, or was there something deeper at play? Clara's internal conflict raged on, and she found herself spiraling into memories of her own past. The pain of her own unfulfilled dreams, the relationships that had crumbled around her, and the haunting silence of her lonely apartment weighed heavily on her heart. She longed for connection, for someone to understand her struggles, and in Ethan she saw a reflection of her own scars. One evening, as Clara sat by Ethan's bedside, she took a deep breath, determined to break through his defenses. "Ethan, I know you're hurting," she said, her voice steady, "but I want to help you. You don't have to face this alone." He turned to her, his expression unreadable, and for a moment she thought she saw a flicker of hope in his eyes. But just as quickly, he shut her down. "I don't need your help," he snapped, frustration boiling over. "You have no idea what I've been through. You should have let me die." The words hung in the air like a death sentence, and Clara's heart shattered at his declaration. Yet amidst the storm of emotions, Clara remained resolute. She leaned closer, her voice a whisper amid the chaos. "You still have a heart, Ethan. I can see it. You may not believe it, but there is still hope for you." The intensity of her gaze held him captive, and for the first time, she felt she was reaching him, even if only a little. As the night wore on, the tension between them crackled in the air, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Clara felt the weight of their shared pain, the complexities of their lives intertwining in a way she never expected. She knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but her determination to help Ethan burned bright, even in the face of his resistance. In that moment, Clara realized that saving someone often meant confronting her own darkness. She had to embrace her own vulnerabilities to help Ethan confront his. The journey they were embarking on was uncertain, but it was also filled with the promise of healing, love, and the possibility of redemption. As Clara left Ethan's room that night, her heart raced with anticipation. She was ready to fight for him, to navigate the treacherous waters of their emotions. She understood that the path ahead would be difficult, but she was willing to take the risk. After all, what if saving someone truly meant losing yourself? She was prepared to find out. As Clara continued her shifts at the hospital, the weight of her emotions felt heavier with every passing day. The sterile scent of antiseptic lingered in the air, but it couldn't mask the chaotic thoughts swirling in her mind. She found herself stealing glances at Ethan's room during her rounds, her heart racing each time she heard his name mentioned. It was as if he had cast a spell over her, igniting a longing she hadn't felt in years. But with that longing came a deepening sense of conflict. Ethan was a puzzle, a complicated mix of anger, pain, and unspoken words. Clara had watched him push away the nurses who tried to engage with him, his icy demeanor a barrier to anyone who dared to approach. Yet each time she entered his room, she felt an undeniable connection, a magnetic pull that drew her closer, despite the shadows of his past that loomed large. It was a feeling that both thrilled and terrified her. One late afternoon, Clara found herself alone in the break room, her hands wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee. Her colleagues were buzzing with chatter about mundane topics, but her mind was elsewhere. She tried to focus on the conversation, but all she could think about was Ethan's piercing gaze and the moment he had lashed out at her. "You should have let me die." His words echoed in her mind like a haunting refrain. "Clara?" A familiar voice broke through her thoughts. It was Lisa, a fellow nurse who had become a close confidant. "You've been distant lately. Is everything okay?" Clara forced a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Just tired, I guess, long shifts and all." Lisa raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. "You're worried about that patient, aren't you, Ethan?" Clara hesitated, unsure of how to articulate her feelings. "I don't know, Lisa. He's different. There's something about him that draws me in, but he's also so closed off." "Sometimes it's easier for people to push others away than to let them in," Lisa replied gently. "You know that, right? But you have to be careful. You can't get too involved." Clara's heart sank at the warning. She felt torn between her professional responsibilities and her personal feelings. "I just want to help him," she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Lisa nodded, her expression softening. "I understand. But remember, you can't save everyone. You have to take care of yourself, too." The conversation lingered in Clara's mind as she returned to her duties. Each time she entered Ethan's room, she felt the weight of that advice pressing down on her. But the more she learned about him, the more she became convinced that he was worth the risk. The following day, Clara approached Ethan's room with a mix of trepidation and determination. She knocked softly before stepping inside, her heart pounding in anticipation. Ethan was sitting on the edge of the bed, staring out the window, his expression inscrutable. "Hey," Clara said, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. He turned to face her, his dark eyes narrowing. "What do you want?" Clara took a deep breath, grounding herself. "I just wanted to check on you. How are you feeling today?" "Why do you care?" he shot back, a hint of bitterness in his tone. "I'm just a patient to you." "No," Clara replied, her voice firm yet gentle. "You're more than that. I see you, Ethan. I see the pain you're carrying." Ethan's gaze flickered, and for a moment, Clara thought she saw a crack in his armor. But then, as if summoning a shield, he hardened his expression again. "You don't know anything about me." "Then let me know you," she urged, stepping closer. "Let me help." He scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. "Help? You think you can help me? You have no idea what I've done, what I'm capable of." "Maybe not," Clara admitted, her heart racing. "But I believe everyone deserves a chance at redemption, even you." The silence that followed was thick with tension. Ethan's eyes searched hers, and Clara held her ground, refusing to look away. In that moment, she knew that his anger was a mask for the deep-seated pain that lay beneath. "You don't understand," he finally said, his voice low and raw. "I don't want anyone's help. I don't want to feel anything." Clara's heart ached for him. "And yet, you're still here. You're still fighting, even if you don't realize it. You're stronger than you think." Ethan turned away from her, his shoulders tense. "You don't know what it's like to be me, to feel so broken that you can't see a way out." That was the moment Clara decided to take a risk. She moved closer, her heart pounding in her chest. "Then let me help you find that way out. You don't have to do this alone." Ethan's eyes flashed with anger, and Clara braced herself for another outburst. "You should have let me die!" he yelled, the pain in his voice cutting through her like a knife. She inhaled sharply, but instead of retreating, she took another step forward. "You still have a heart," she whispered, her voice unwavering. "You're still here. You're still fighting." For a heartbeat, the air between them crackled with intensity. Clara could see the turmoil battling within him, the struggle between his desire to push her away and the flickering hope that maybe, just maybe, he could let her in. Ethan's expression softened momentarily, and Clara seized the opportunity. "Let me in, Ethan. Let me help you carry this burden." He looked away, his jaw clenched, but Clara could see the internal battle raging behind his eyes. "I don't deserve help," he muttered. "Everyone deserves help," Clara insisted gently. "You're not defined by your past. You can choose to change. You can choose to heal." His eyes met hers again, and for a brief moment he seemed vulnerable, like a wounded animal caught in a trap, unsure of whether to fight or flee. Clara felt a surge of hope mixed with fear. Would he let her in, or would he push her away once more? "I don't know if I can," Ethan finally admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "Then let's figure it out together," Clara said. "You don't have to do this alone. I'm here for you." As the words hung in the air, Clara felt a shift in the atmosphere. It was as if a veil had lifted, and the tension that had once filled the room began to dissipate. Ethan's walls, though still present, seemed to waver as he looked at her with a glimmer of uncertainty, a flicker of hope that perhaps he could trust her after all. But just as Clara felt a glimmer of triumph, Ethan's expression hardened again. "You don't know what you're getting yourself into," he warned, his voice low and gravelly. "Maybe not," Clara replied, her heart racing with determination, "but I'm willing to try." As she stood there, facing the man who had both terrified and captivated her, Clara knew that this was just the beginning. The road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but she was ready to fight for him. Because deep down, she believed that saving someone often meant confronting her own darkness, and she was willing to take that risk. With a newfound resolve, Clara stepped back, allowing the weight of their conversation to settle. "Just think about it, Ethan. I'll be here whenever you're ready." As she left the room, her heart swelled with hope. She knew the journey would be difficult, but she was prepared to navigate the treacherous waters of their emotions. She understood that love was never straightforward, but she was willing to embrace the chaos if it meant giving Ethan a chance at healing. Little did she know, the challenges that lay ahead would test the very limits of her strength and resolve, but Clara was ready to face them head-on. After all, what if saving someone truly meant losing yourself? She was prepared to find out. Clara stood frozen in the doorway, her heart pounding in her chest as Ethan's voice echoed through the sterile hospital room. His words were laced with anger and despair, a raw reflection of the turmoil raging within him. "You should have let me die," he shouted, his eyes blazing with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. The weight of his pain hung heavy in the air, and Clara felt as if the very walls were closing in around them, amplifying the gravity of the moment. She took a tentative step forward, her pulse quickening as she searched his face for any sign of vulnerability beneath the hardened exterior. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice trembling, "you still have a heart." The words slipped out before she could stop them, a plea wrapped in tenderness. She wanted him to see that beneath the layers of hurt and resentment lay a flicker of hope, a chance for redemption. For a moment, silence settled between them, thick with unspoken emotions. Ethan's expression shifted, the fire in his eyes dimming slightly as he processed her words. Clara could see the battle waging within him, the struggle to reconcile his anger with the flicker of connection they shared. It was a delicate dance, one that required both of them to confront their truths. "Why do you even care?" he finally asked, his voice softer now, almost vulnerable. "I'm just a lost cause. You should walk away while you still can." The defiance in his tone was undercut by a hint of desperation, and Clara felt her heart ache for him. "Because I see you, Ethan. she replied, her gaze steady. "I see the pain you're in, and I know it's not easy to face it. But running away won't make it go away." She took a daring step closer, closing the distance between them. "You don't have to do this alone." Ethan's gaze dropped to the floor, the tension in his shoulders easing ever so slightly. Clara watched as he wrestled with her words, the weight of his past pressing down on him like an anchor. She could sense his reluctance to let her in, to allow himself to be vulnerable. "Why do you care?" he repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm broken. I don't deserve your kindness." The self-loathing in his tone pierced Clara's heart, and she instinctively reached out, gently placing her hand on his arm. The warmth of her touch sent a jolt of electricity between them, an unspoken connection that transcended the chaos of their circumstances. "Everyone deserves kindness, Ethan," she replied softly, her eyes searching his for understanding. "You've been through so much, and it's okay to feel lost, but I believe you can find your way back." Her words hung in the air, a fragile thread weaving their way into the fabric of his despair. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment, as if trying to block out the world around him. Clara could see the internal struggle etched on his face, the war between wanting to push her away and the undeniable pull of their connection. It was a pivotal moment, one that could change everything for both of them. "Clara," he said, his voice breaking slightly, "I don't know how to let anyone in. I've spent so long building walls to keep people out. It's easier that way." The honesty in his admission was raw and vulnerable, and Clara felt her heart swell with empathy. "I get that," she responded, her voice steady. "I've built my walls too, but sometimes those walls can trap us in our pain. We don't have to stay trapped. We can break free together." Clara could feel the energy shifting between them, a fragile hope blossoming amidst the darkness. Ethan's gaze lifted to meet hers, and in that moment, Clara saw a flicker of something, fear, longing, and a deep-seated desire to be understood. "What if it hurts even more?" he asked, vulnerability lacing his tone. "What if I let you in and it all falls apart?" "Then we face it together," Clara replied, her voice unwavering. "You don't have to be alone in this. I'll be here for you, no matter what." She could feel the intensity of their connection growing, a fragile thread binding them together in this chaotic world. As the silence enveloped them once more, Clara sensed that the moment of truth was upon them. Ethan's defenses were crumbling, the walls he had built around his heart beginning to crack. But the fear was still there, lurking just beneath the surface. "I'm scared, Clara," he finally confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I can trust anyone again." The admission hung heavily in the air, a testament to the scars that marked his past. Clara felt a surge of compassion for him, her heart aching at the thought of the battles he had fought alone. "I know," she said gently, squeezing his arm in reassurance. "But trust is built over time. It starts with small steps, with honesty and vulnerability. I promise to be patient with you." Clara's words were infused with sincerity, a promise she was willing to keep, no matter how long it took. Ethan's gaze softened, and in that moment, Clara felt the weight of their shared pain lifting ever so slightly. The flicker of hope that had ignited between them began to grow, intertwining with the threads of their pasts. It was a fragile beginning, but one that held the promise of something beautiful. "What if I'm not worth it?" he asked, his vulnerability shining through the cracks of his armor. "What if I just end up hurting you?" "You are worth it," Clara insisted, her voice firm. "You have a heart, Ethan, and that matters. We all have our struggles, but it's how we choose to face them that defines us. I'm willing to take that risk if you are." Clara's heart raced as she spoke, the intensity of her feelings for him becoming undeniable. Tears brimmed in Ethan's eyes as he absorbed her words. "You really believe that?" he asked, his voice laced with disbelief. I do, Clara replied, her gaze unwavering, and I'm here in this moment because I believe in you. I see the light within you, even if it feels dim right now. Let's see where this takes us. Ethan's breath hitched, a mixture of fear and hope swirling within him. Clara held her breath, waiting for his response, for a sign that he was ready to take that leap of faith. The silence stretched, an eternity of uncertainty hanging between them. Finally, Ethan nodded, albeit hesitantly. "Okay," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I'll try, but I can't promise it will be easy." "That's all I ask," Clara replied, a smile breaking through the tension. "One step at a time." As they stood there, the world around them faded into the background. Clara felt a surge of warmth flooding her heart, a sense of belonging that had eluded her for so long. She knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but in that moment she felt a glimmer of hope, the promise of a new beginning forged in the fires of their shared pain. Little did they know, the journey ahead would test their resolve, pushing them to confront their fears and insecurities. Yet, as they took that first step together, Clara felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was ready to embrace the chaos, to dive into the depths of their emotions, and to fight for the love that was slowly blossoming between them. What if saving someone truly meant losing yourself? Clara was prepared to find out. She was ready to unravel the complexities of her heart while helping Ethan navigate the shadows of his past. In that moment, standing on the precipice of uncertainty, they both knew that the only way forward was together. The air in the hospital room was thick with tension, each heartbeat echoing like the warning of a storm on the horizon. Clara stood across from Ethan, her heart racing as the weight of his words hung heavily in the air. "You should have let me die," he shouted, his voice a raw mix of anger and despair. The intensity of his emotions was palpable, a raging fire threatening to consume them both. Clara took a step closer, her voice soft yet unwavering. "You still have a heart." The words slipped from her lips like a lifeline, reaching for the part of him that seemed so far away. She could see the flicker of something in his eyes, a vulnerability buried beneath layers of pain and resentment. It was a moment suspended in time, a fragile connection forged through shared suffering. Ethan's expression shifted, the anger giving way to confusion and fear. "What do you know about it?" he spat, the venom in his tone a defense mechanism, a shield against the truth he was too afraid to confront. Clara felt her chest tighten at his words, a familiar ache rising within her. She understood that fear all too well. "More than you think," she replied, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "I see the way you push everyone away, how you wear your pain like armor. But you don't have to do this alone, Ethan." The honesty in her words hung between them, an invitation to let down the walls he had built around his heart. For a moment, silence enveloped them, broken only by the distant sounds of the bustling hospital outside. Clara watched as Ethan's facade cracked, the anger flickering like a candle in the wind. She could sense the turmoil within him, the battle between wanting to be saved and fearing the vulnerability that came with it. "Why do you care?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper now, the fight in him waning. "Why would you want to help someone like me?" Clara took a deep breath, grounding herself in her truth. "Because I see you, Ethan. I see the man beneath the pain, the one who deserves a chance at happiness. We all have scars, but that doesn't mean we're unworthy of love or healing." Her heart raced as she spoke, each word a testament to her own journey of overcoming darkness. Ethan's gaze softened, the walls around him beginning to crumble. Clara could see the flicker of hope, buried deep beneath layers of hurt. "You don't know what I've done. You don't know how broken I am." His voice was laced with despair, as if admitting his flaws would shatter the fragile connection they were forming. "I know enough to realize that we all have our battles," Clara replied, stepping even closer, her heart aching for him. "You don't have to carry this burden alone. Let me in, Ethan. Let me help you." As the words left her mouth, Clara felt a shift in the atmosphere, a silent acknowledgement of the truth they were both dancing around. It was a leap of faith, a risk she was willing to take for the sake of the man standing before her. Ethan's expression wavered, caught between fear and the longing for connection. "I don't want to hurt you," he admitted, his voice cracking with emotion. "I don't want to drag you down with me." Clara shook her head, her determination unwavering. "You won't drag me down. I'm not afraid of your darkness, Ethan. I want to walk through it with you." In that moment, the dam holding back Ethan's emotions broke. Tears welled in his eyes, and he looked away, ashamed of the vulnerability spilling forth. "I don't know how to accept help," he confessed, his voice barely a whisper. "I've been alone for so long." "Then let me show you," Clara replied, her heart swelling with compassion. "We can figure this out together. You don't have to face your demons alone anymore." The room felt smaller as they stood together, the weight of their shared histories bringing them closer. Clara could feel the warmth radiating from him, the promise of healing that lay just beneath the surface. Ethan took a shaky breath, his heart racing as he contemplated her offer. "What if I fail? What if I can't change?" "Then we'll figure it out together," she reassured him softly. "We'll face it one step at a time. I believe in you, Ethan, and I believe in us." In that moment, a flicker of hope ignited between them, illuminating the darkness that had clouded their lives for far too long. It was a fragile flame, but it was there, a testament to the possibility of healing and love. As the days turned into weeks, Clara and Ethan began to embrace the tumultuous journey ahead. They faced obstacles together, navigating the complexities of their emotions and the shadows that loomed over them. Each day, they took small steps towards healing, leaning on one another in moments of doubt and fear. Clara introduced Ethan to therapy, encouraging him to confront the demons that had haunted him for years. It wasn't an easy path. There were days when he wanted to retreat into his darkness, to push her away again. But Clara stood firm, a beacon of hope in his life, reminding him of the strength they could find in vulnerability. As they shared their stories, Clara opened up about her own battles, her struggles with loneliness, the pain of past relationships, and the moments she had felt utterly lost. Ethan listened, his heart aching for her as he recognized the scars they both carried. In their shared pain, they began to build a foundation of trust, a bond that transcended the darkness surrounding them. One evening, as they sat together in Clara's apartment, the city lights twinkling outside the window, Ethan turned to her, his eyes filled with gratitude. "I don't know what I would do without you," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "You've shown me that it's okay to feel, to let someone in." Clara smiled, her heart swelling with affection. "You're stronger than you realize, Ethan, and I'm proud of you for taking this journey with me." The warmth of their connection enveloped them, a protective cocoon against the harsh realities of the world outside. They shared laughter and tears, navigating the complexities of their relationship with tenderness and honesty. But as their bond deepened, Clara couldn't shake the fear that lurked in the back of her mind. What if Ethan's past came back to haunt him? What if he couldn't escape the darkness that had held him captive for so long? One night, as they lay in bed together, Clara voiced her concerns, her voice trembling with vulnerability. "Ethan, what if you slip back into those old habits? What if the darkness consumes you again?" Ethan turned to her, his expression serious. "I can't promise that I won't struggle, but I can promise that I'll fight for us. You're worth the fight, Clara." Tears filled her eyes at his words, a mixture of fear and hope swirling within her. "I just don't want to lose you," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "You won't lose me," he assured her, reaching for her hand, intertwining their fingers. "I'm not going anywhere. I'm ready to face the darkness, but I need you by my side." In that moment, Clara felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were in this together, ready to confront whatever challenges lay ahead. As time passed, Clara and Ethan continued to grow individually and as a couple. They learned to communicate openly, to express their fears and desires without judgment. They supported each other through therapy sessions, navigating the emotional landscape of their pasts while building a future filled with hope. One sunny afternoon, they found themselves sitting in a park, the warmth of the sun enveloping them. Clara leaned against Ethan, her heart swelling with gratitude for the journey they had undertaken together. "Look how far we've come," she said, a smile lighting up her face. "We've faced so much together, and yet here we are, stronger than ever." Ethan nodded, a soft smile gracing his lips. "I never thought I could feel this way again," he confessed. "You've opened my eyes to a world full of possibilities." Clara felt a sense of pride swell within her. They had faced their demons, confronted their fears, and emerged on the other side, together. As they held each other close, Clara understood that the road ahead would still have its challenges. But for the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful. She knew that as long as they had each other, they could weather any storm that life threw their way. In that moment, standing together beneath the vast blue sky, Clara realized that saving someone didn't mean losing herself. Instead, it meant discovering the beauty of love, connection, and the strength that could be found in vulnerability. As their fingers intertwined, Clara understood that they were both on a journey of healing. The promise of love, filled with uncertainty, yet bursting with potential, lay before them. In that moment, they were ready to embrace whatever came next, together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue across the sky, Clara felt a sense of peace wash over her. They had come so far, and yet their journey was just beginning. "Let's promise to always fight for each other," she whispered, her heart full. Ethan turned to her, his eyes shining with determination. "Always," he vowed, sealing their promise with a kiss that held the weight of their shared history and the hope of a future yet unwritten. And in that moment, with the world fading into the background, Clara and Ethan knew that they were exactly where they were meant to be, together, ready to embrace the beautiful complexities of love and love. As the night enveloped them, Clara felt a sense of belonging she had never known before. She was ready to face whatever lay ahead, hand in hand with the man who had taught her that love has the power to heal, to transform, and to illuminate even the darkest of paths. This was their story, a journey through darkness leading to the light. And as they walked together into the unknown, they understood that they were no longer alone. They had each other, and that was enough. If you found this story touching or relatable, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more captivating journeys. Join us as we continue to explore the complexities of love, hope, and the human experience. Thank you for being part of our community. And remember, the journey is always better when shared.